Imagine being a nobody, a man stuck in a dead-end office job, a man whose marriage is falling apart, a man nobody takes seriously. Now imagine that same man convincing the world's most powerful football officials to give his country the biggest sporting event on Earth. Sounds impossible, right? But what if I told you that this man used lies, manipulation, political games, secret deals, and even bribery to make it happen? And what if his greatest victory eventually became the reason for his downfall? Today we're diving into Netflix's fascinating sports political drama, Mexico '86, a story inspired by real events, a story about ambition, power, corruption, and one man's obsession with putting his country on the world stage. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe because we break down the most fascinating movies and hidden stories from around the world. Now let's get into it. The movie opens in Mexico City in 1983. Immediately, we're introduced to Martín de la Torre, and from the very first moment, it's obvious that Martín believes he was born for something bigger. Through his narration, he tells us that when a country hosts the FIFA World Cup, it becomes the center of the universe. The entire world watches. The entire world pays attention. And according to Martín, he was the man responsible for making that happen for Mexico. But when we actually see him, reality looks very different. Martín isn't a powerful politician. He's not a famous athlete. He's not a wealthy businessman. He's just a low-ranking employee working for Mexico's football federation, known as Femexfoot. His job is painfully boring. He spends his days buried in paperwork, preparing reports, following orders, watching other people make important decisions. And every day he grows more frustrated, because deep down, Martín believes he deserves much more. At home, things aren't any better. His marriage has become cold and lifeless. Every conversation with his wife turns into another argument. The spark is gone. The love is gone. In fact, Martín barely wants to be there. Instead, he's secretly having an affair with his attractive neighbor, Susana. Unlike his wife, Susana challenges him. She understands his ambitions, or at least she tries to. But even she quickly notices something dangerous about Martín. He's addicted to chasing bigger dreams, no matter the cost. And that's when fate suddenly hands him an opportunity. Thousands of miles away in Colombia, violence is spiraling out of control. The country is facing enormous political instability. Drug cartels have become incredibly powerful. And as the situation worsens, Colombia makes a shocking announcement. They can no longer host the 1986 FIFA World Cup. Just like that, the biggest tournament in sports is suddenly homeless. The news sends shockwaves through the football world. FIFA immediately begins searching for a replacement host. Countries everywhere see a golden opportunity. And Martín? He sees the chance of a lifetime. For years, Mexico had struggled in international football. The national team wasn't respected. Fans had lost hope. Many people didn't even care anymore. But Martín believes hosting the World Cup could change everything. It could transform Mexico. And perhaps more importantly, it could transform him. There's just one problem. Nobody else believes it. His boss, Gustavo Alvarez, laughs off the idea. Mexico had already hosted the World Cup once before in 1970. The idea that FIFA would allow them to host again seems ridiculous. Other countries have stronger economies, more influence, more money, better connections. To everyone else, Mexico's chances are practically zero. But Martín refuses to accept that answer. And what he does next shocks everyone. Instead of staying quiet, he goes on national television. Millions of viewers watch as Martín publicly criticizes his own federation. He openly attacks Gustavo Alvarez. He accuses the leadership of lacking vision, lacking courage, lacking ambition. It's essentially career suicide. One wrong move and his football career is over. But Martín is gambling on something: attention. And the gamble works, because among the viewers watching that interview is one of the most powerful men in Mexico, Emilio Azcárraga, a media billionaire, a football kingmaker, a man with enormous influence over both sports and politics. While others see Martín as reckless, Emilio sees potential. Soon after, Martín receives an invitation, a private meeting. a chance to explain himself. And this meeting changes everything. When Martín arrives, Emilio immediately begins testing him. He asks a simple question. What's your plan? The truth? Martín doesn't really have one. Not yet. But Martín has something even more powerful than a plan. Confidence. The kind of confidence that borders on insanity. He talks about making Mexico a football powerhouse. He talks about changing history. He talks about dreams nobody else dares to dream. At one point, he even says that one day he wants to become FIFA president. Most people would laugh. Emilio doesn't. Instead, he becomes intrigued. Because for all of Martín's flaws, his ambition is real. And Emilio realizes something. This crazy dreamer might actually be useful. Soon, Martín receives the opportunity he has always wanted. He is elevated within the Federation, and suddenly the man who used to prepare reports is now helping lead Mexico's campaign for the World Cup. But here's the thing. Winning the World Cup bid has very little to do with football, and everything to do with politics, money, power, and manipulation. As Martín prepares to travel to Switzerland for the FIFA vote, he begins to discover how the game is really played behind closed doors, and what he learns will force him to cross lines he never imagined. Or perhaps, lines he was always willing to cross. Because waiting for him in Switzerland is a battle against the United States, a battle involving billionaires, government officials, secret negotiations, and millions of dollars changing hands. At first, Martín believes he can win through passion, through patriotism, through vision. But very soon, he realizes that in FIFA's world, passion means nothing, and money means everything. And what happens next changes everything.
Martín travels to Switzerland to fight for Mexico's World Cup bid. There, he discovers that hosting rights are not decided by football passion, but by money, influence, and political favors. The biggest obstacle is the United States, which enters the race with enormous financial resources and powerful allies. American representatives use diplomatic pressure, business connections, and political promises to secure votes from FIFA delegates. Realizing Mexico cannot compete fairly, Martín turns to bribery. Backed by powerful businessman Emilio Azcárraga, he distributes money to delegates and tries to build support country by country. However, the Americans quickly counter every move. They offer larger incentives and stronger political deals. Just when it seems Mexico's chances are fading, Martín devises a brilliant but deceptive plan. On voting day, he secretly changes the seating arrangement inside the conference hall, making it appear that Mexico already has overwhelming support. The psychological trick works. One delegate follows another, and Mexico wins the vote. Against all odds, Mexico becomes the host of the 1986 FIFA World Cup. For Martín, it is the greatest victory of his life. But success only makes him more ambitious, and that ambition is about to cost him everything. As preparations for the World Cup begin, disaster strikes. In 1985, a devastating earthquake hits Mexico City, killing thousands and destroying large parts of the country. FIFA immediately begins questioning whether Mexico can still host the tournament. The United States sees another opportunity and pushes to take over hosting duties. Desperate to save the event, Martín launches a massive campaign to convince FIFA that Mexico is ready. He stages packed stadiums. The 1986 World Cup is finally held in Mexico and becomes a major success. The Mexican national team performs brilliantly, reaching the quarterfinals before being eliminated by West Germany in a dramatic penalty shootout. For a moment, Martín appears unstoppable. He has achieved what nobody thought possible. But after the tournament, his ambition grows even larger. Determined to strengthen Mexican football, he becomes involved in a youth team scandal. Older players are given fake birth certificates so they can compete in underage tournaments. Eventually, the fraud is exposed. A massive investigation follows. Mexico is banned from the 1990 World Cup. The Football Federation quickly needs someone to blame. That person is Martín. The same people who once celebrated him now abandon him. His achievements are forgotten. His reputation is destroyed. He spends the rest of his life teaching accounting, while football fans remember him only as the man responsible for one of the biggest scandals in Mexican football history. Yet the movie leaves viewers with an important question. Was Martín a hero who sacrificed everything for his country? Or was he simply another ambitious man who became corrupted by power? The answer depends on how you view his journey. Because Mexico '86 is not really a story about football. It's a story about ambition, about how success can change a person, and about the thin line between patriotism and personal glory. If you enjoyed this movie explanation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more movie recaps and ending explained videos.